And it's, cultivate that peace in yourself, cultivate that love, that compassion, because when you do, you're really going to see amazing results. And it's not only good for you, but it's good obviously for the animals. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention, you may have noticed that I always use the word other in front of the word animals. I try to all the time. And the reason I do that is because when I talk to people, I want to always reinforce the idea that we are animals too. Because most people have this crazy idea that we are different. I don't know where that comes from. For some reason, we're from a different planet than those animals, and that, we're humans. So, with those weird people. When actually we're just, what are we? We're just mammals. We're apes. What are apes supposed to eat, right? Plants. So, whenever you put the word other in front of animals, people are like, what do you mean other? They have this questioning look, and they start looking at you and say, what do you mean by other? Well, aren't you an animal too? Oh, yeah, I never thought about it this way. Seriously, it happened to me many times. Whenever I do that, I get those really questioning looks. What do you mean we're other animals? And it must sound crazy, but it's a revelation for a lot of people. They don't think about it. They think of themselves as this different category of beings that, is separate from the rest. Well, we're not. We're just all part of the same whole. I'm drying up. So one of the things also that's very efficient, or I found very efficient for myself, is to always reframe. So let's see if I can think of an example here. You're on the street, you're doing leafleting, and somebody comes to you and say, I could never go vegan because it's so. They give you all the usual excuse. Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your calcium? I can't go vegan because I'm going to miss my cheese. You heard those questions. It comes up all the time. The way to reframe that is to go to those people and say, well, why do you think you need cheese? Don't answer the questions. Ask them questions. Try to find out what's the problem, what makes them tick. And when you do that, you start seeing people who are concerned by their health. Other people are, just don't know about what's going on with other animals. And if you ask them questions and you show that you're interested in concern about them, you're going to find out they're going to be way more receptive to your message if you show them the attention that they want, because really that's attention gathering. And you also, in the process, sort of relieve their fear of listening to the message. You relieve this anxiety that they have at, oh my God, I could never go vegan because it means I have to change. When you actually, tell them, well, do you think it's radical? Is it radical to eat fruits and vegetables? Okay, maybe it is radical to eat fruits and vegetables, but what is your other concern? Oh, the cheese. Okay, the cheese. Well, what is cheese? Cheese comes from bovine secretions. Ugh, bovine secretions. Suddenly they realize, whoa, they picture that themselves under the car and starting to suck our teeth or something. They have this, seriously, when you use those terms and you look at people's eyes, ooh, When you use the word meat instead of using flesh, what do? You reinforce, again, this mentality that meat is flesh. What does the word meat mean? Does anybody know what the actual meaning of the word meat is? Close. Dave? Close to. Now, it actually literally means that which is not liquid. So in essence, it refers to any food that's solid. It doesn't refer to animal flesh, per se. But for some reason, when you say meat, people think flesh, right? So we want to reclaim that word for what it truly means. I mean, we eat coconut meat, right? We have no problem saying coconut meat, but for some reason, if you just say the word meat, people think animal flesh. So when you're out there and you talk to people, don't call it meat, call it what it is. Don't hide behind euphemism. Tell things for what they are, because people have no idea. If you got somebody and you say, do you like your meat, do you like your cheese? Now, do you like eating animal flesh? Do you like eating, drinking bovine secretions? It's what it is, right? Do you like your chicken menstruation products? Okay, that's gross. But, You know what I'm saying? Is that instead of using euphemism, say things for what they truly are. We use all those words to hide what things are. Let's get rid of it. That's part of the conditioning. The meat industry, or I should call it the animal flesh industry, uses those words to mask what they are truly selling. What are they selling? They're selling dismembered animal body parts. They're selling the secretions of a cow. They're selling something that comes out of a chicken's butt, for God's sake. Right? We don't think about it. Look, the fact that you laughed, shows that you don't think about it. No, it's quite all right, actually. I found it funny too, in a way. But it shows that we are programmed to think of eggs as this neat little thing in a package, right? But we don't think about what it really is. It's something that comes out of a hen's butt. Sorry. That's what it is. When you tell people those things, they're like, oh my God, what really? It's a shock. You want to sort of shock the truth into them. Nicely, not obviously, nicely, not like, I'm going to tell you what it is. No, you want to do it nicely and obviously, but don't hide behind words. Don't hide behind euphemisms. Say things for what they truly are. Because when you do that, then people really start thinking. Because they don't think about it. It's just, like Melanie Joy would say, it's natural, normal, and necessary. If they accept it as normal, natural, and necessary, they're not going to question it unless we tell them what it is. So do that, and you'll see how good results with it, I promise. There's a quote I really like from Mahatma Gandhi. I kind of want to read you if I can find it. Too much paper, really. It's so disorganized. Okay, here it is. In his words, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. And I'm sure you all understand what that means. But the power of belief, the power of those myths that we've been brought up on is deep. Remember that 95% subconscious programming that I was telling you about? That 80% thing about, that we've been taught by the time we're 7? How many people do you know by the age of 7 who think, I don't want to eat animals? How many do you know? There are a few? You're one of them? Great. Right. That's your 20% they're talking to you. Not that 80% you've been taught. That you were somehow able to reach to your true self and figuring it out. But the majority of people will never do it unless we confront them with it. Because it's so deeply entrenched, deeply, beaten down in our heads. It took me 36 years. I wish it took me less, but unfortunately it took me 36 years. And then once I was there, I was thinking, why did it take me so long? And I had to really read the work Peace Diet to understand why it took me so long and how deep the programming was. So today, I would like to very much hear your thoughts on those questions I was telling you about earlier, if anybody wants to answer those questions. So number 1, why are you vegan? Jimmy.
Every reason.
Which is?
Every reason would be the planet, all the planet's denizens, this body, and this heart and mind. So veganism affects everything, everyone, directly or indirectly. So for me, it's every reason. Because I can love the animals all I want, but if the earth goes to hell in a handbasket, the animals have no place to live. So it's for every reason. Because I find that veganism is better for the planet. Obviously, better for the cows. Ask the cows. They'll tell you, please go vegan.
Anybody else wants to take that question? Sarah.
I respect that from you, but it's never been about the planet for me or the environment or anything. All my health, it's always been about animal welfare.
Absolutely.
It's twice that it's about the environment and my health and the planet, but it's always been about the animal suffering.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you, actually. Even though I've been talking about a little bit about the environment and obviously ourselves, it is, first of all, about the animals. And actually, you all know Donald Watson, right? Obviously, who created the word vegan. And I found a very interesting anecdote recently. I was reading an interview that Will Tuttle gave to an Australian newspaper when he was doing his tour in Australia. And he found out that Don Watson actually read his book right before he died. So that would have been in 2005, because he passed away in 2006. And what Don Watson apparently said is that, oh my God, the word peace diet is exactly what I've been wanting to say for so many years. And that's, you know, in the interview I could tell he was very surprised about it and happy about it. I was too, because to me it's a validation of the beauty and power of this book. But it's, you know, Don Watson's definition is exactly what you said. It's about the animals. It's about reducing suffering. But by extension, it also is good for us. It's good for the planet. It's good for the environment. I mean, it's everything. I mean, everything is interconnected. So thank you for that. Anybody else? Yeah.
Listen, here's the deal. You can say you love animals, but do you love them if you feed them poisoned water? Do you love animals if you allow them to die needlessly from cancer?
Mm-hmm.
We poison the planet, we poison the animals. And there is no way to love an animal and kill it. There is no way to love an animal and poison it slowly.
Exactly. And you used the word eat. Okay. It's practice, not use the word eat. It's a very good point. I mean, what we do to the planet automatically affects other animals. For instance, you know, if we're going to eat conventional foods that are grown with pesticides, it's killing animals, killing insects, killing birds. If we use organic foods, which is slightly better, not great, but slightly better, at least we avoid part of the damage. But unfortunately, organics doesn't mean it's respectful of wildlife. My ideal is veganic, really, and I'm hoping it's really going to develop and that veganic agriculture is really going to take off, because I think that's the future. Anybody? Yeah, Sarah.
I was wondering if you could help me come up with a way to help people transition into veganism, because I hear you about not saying it's okay to be vegetarian. I would never want to say that, but a lot of times, especially, you know, I'm Persian, a lot of these people, they love meat, and for them to go strict from eating meat 7 days a week to vegan is almost, that's not going to go.
I get it.
It's not going to fly.
Yeah.
So I want to give them that idea that it's okay to transition, you know, go vegetarian and then vegan, but you're saying that's not even good. So how would you do it?
Well, the thing is, it's not your decision. You're giving them the message. It's their decision to see if they want to transition slowly. Your message has to be what you consider to be the truth. If the truth for you is that people have to be vegan and we are supposed to be vegan, then you want to give them your truth. Now, what did... Right. Well, the thing is, yeah, absolutely. Well, the way I see it is that I never said the word vegetarian. I cringe at that word completely. I say vegan. Okay, well, I can't be vegan today. Okay, just be vegan for one day and see how you feel about it. And if you're not going to die, you'll see you're not going to die. Your arms will not fall off.
So all or nothing?
No, not all or nothing. It's really that decision. Well, I cannot go vegan. It's too extreme. Okay, well, what is it you can give up then? If they say, well, I can't be vegan because I don't want to give up cheese. Well, give up everything else then. Just because you cannot do one thing doesn't mean you shouldn't do everything else. So you want to sort of make them feel better about it in the sense that the ultimate goal is really for them to go vegan, but they have to understand that if it's too scary at first, obviously be encouraging, you know, but if it's too scary at first, say, well, what is it you're not comfortable giving up? And also, don't forget, when you say that, when you say give up, it's like you're telling them to sacrifice something. So you want to reframe that and say to them, no, it's not, you're not giving them anything. You're actually going to gain because you're going to discover all those new foods you never knew existed. It's not a sacrifice, it's actually going to expand your horizon. But obviously at first, because they have no clue, well, ask them, what is it you can't give up? And if they tell you, well, it's cheese, because it's usually the cheese, well, give up everything else.
Well, it's yogurt for
Okay, so don't give up the yogurt then, give up everything else, and then you'll see that you're not going to get sick, and if, you know, let them connect those dots. But your job is to tell them what you feel is your truth, and then let them figure it out. And be encouraging and being supportive, obviously. Lisa.
I was going to say, so I think that some saying in terms of or not saying, don't just be vegetarian and go vegan all the way. Sometimes I think we do it the opposite way. Give up the dairy first. You're going to feel profoundly better, and that's going to provide the motivation to then give up the so-called meat.
That's a very good point.
The other thing is that there are wonderful recipes and soy yogurts out there, so there is no sacrifice in terms of yogurt. There are people like that.
Oh, I would like to go to one of those classes.
You do not have to give up yogurt.
And great vegan cheese.
And great vegan cheese. Do you anyone?
Oh, cheese, yeah, I know.
But you do that, and then that way, that selfish concept is they feel better, and then they're more inclined. But if you just give up the meat and not the dairy, maybe their numbers get better, but they don't really feel better. They don't feel better until they get off the dairy, and then when they're off the boat, then they feel better.
That's a very good point. I like it very much. Thank you. It's good. It's a good way of switching it around, and absolutely, Dave.
Well, along those same lines, just have some ideas to add. I think what you were saying, like whatever's relevant to the culture or that you're speaking to their culture or to a group. Like listening to you speak has given me some ideas of a group that I'm connected with that has values around evolving, around having more positive views towards sexuality and towards women, and having more women being more empowered. So that's all interconnected. So maybe focusing on that or whatever is relevant to the culture if you're looking to be healthier or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And like you're saying, I think what I'm hearing you say is that it's good to be true to your value and not speak as if you believe something else, and encourage people to take the steps that they're ready to take.
Right.
Because people, I think, very important component is determining when people make a change is how difficult or easy they perceive the first steps to be.
Right. And to me, I see it as owning the truth about racism. So if you go to somebody who's racist, are you going to say, oh, it's okay to be racist twice a day or twice a week? No, you're never going to say that, right? You're going to say, no, it's wrong. It's just wrong. Nobody's going to argue that it's wrong. But when it comes to other animals, we want somehow to water down what we really want to put out there. We want to have this message that we want abolition, that it's unacceptable to use animals in any way. But for some reason, we water it down, and we forget this is as much a social issue as any human rights issue. There shouldn't be any difference. But for some reason, it seems, because it's such an accepted thing, it's been around for so long, people tend to forget that. And when it comes to human rights, they think it's absolutely wrong to be racist. They think this torture is wrong. They have absolutely no doubt about it. But when it comes to other animals, for some reason, a little bit better conditions for those animals is acceptable. But they don't think, well, no conditions for those animals are acceptable. They think, eating dairy, just eat a little bit dairy, it's okay. No, it's not okay, it's violence. Are we, as humans, do we accept any form of violence? Especially as vegans? I think there is no question that it should be no. And then if we put the message out there that it's okay to have a little bit of that, we just betraying the animals here, I think. It has nothing to do with our truth. Yes?
I just want to say, because I'm a recovered alcoholic and I used to chain smoke, that I have a lot of experience with addictions, and I believe that our whole culture is addicted to meat and dairy. And when you're dealing with addictions, I used to try to quit smoking and drinking all at once, and start eating healthy all at once. And I was going to start exercising, quit smoking, quit drinking, and really change and I failed every time. Because you can't get rid of all your addictions like that. You set yourself up for failure.
Right.
And so I think it's, even though it's not okay to be an abolitionist twice a day or whatever, I think that we have to also understand that we're dealing with people that are addicted to foods that they've been eating for their entire life.
It's true.
And there's casein in milk. It's a highly addictive substance. And to try to get them to immediately go from...
No, not immediately. I don't expect that.
Bing, and then feel guilty every time, they fail, and then guilt makes people go further back into the addiction.
I don't use guilt ever. That's
But
not
they
the
would
yeah.
use their own guilt.
Right.
Because they realize, oh my God, I'm eating animals and they're suffering and I'm eating them because I'm addicted and you can't deal with it. So then all of a sudden you just go more extreme into like pushing those thoughts away and into the addiction.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, except that, you know, when it comes to addictions like cigarettes and alcohol, you mentioned, those are really things we do to ourselves that don't affect anybody else, for the most part. I mean, it might affect people we live with, obviously. I was very much, you know, drunk for many years myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
It affects everyone around you.
It does, it does. The good news is I was drinking mostly alone, so it didn't really affect anybody else. But I get your point, I totally do. But the thing is, when you talk to people, the one thing they don't realize is that they are in fact addicted. They think it's normal. And I'm not saying we have to shame them, absolutely not. I'm totally against shaming people. I just want them to sort of think about what it is they're eating and let them come to their conclusions and let them take the time that they want to take to get to that solution. And not here to tell them, you know, you're a bad person because you're eating dairy products and you know what dairy products are, you know, the entire stage. I'm telling them what things are and let them reach their own conclusions. And more often than not, I know this from particular clients of mine, more often than not they come back after a few weeks and they're like, oh, you know what, I thought this through. And you're right, I gave up cheese today. Yeah, all right, wonderful. I didn't force them to. I just told them, you know, think about what I'm saying and then when you're ready, just do it. And it's not being forceful, it's not shaming them, it's just telling them the truth and let them think about it and let them come to their own conclusions. Oh, okay.
To me, I feel that it comes down to, based on what everybody has shared, and thank you, but what I feel it comes down to is our staying true to our values, like Dave said, but also being able to adjust our approach so that we are realistic and effective.
Yeah.
And I don't think if we're adjusting our approach a little bit so that we can reach out to people who are addicted, who have lived like that all their lives, who are not going to make that switch, I don't think that means we're not staying true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell someone that, oh, okay, so you're comfortable not eating red meat, but you want to eat chicken for like the next 2 weeks, and then give up chicken for 2 weeks, and eat only fish, and then give up fish, and eat. If they want to do that, I'm not going to be like, nope, it's all wrong.
No.
You gotta
No, I
go
don't
vegan
think
right
so.
away.
No, I never, no, I would never do that.
I feel like I want to be able to, even though I'm against it,
Mhm.
my true value is against it, but to help them make that transition, I'm going to have to agree with
Yeah, the
that.
point is to
That's
start
very
them on the deprogramming, deconditioning process. So you want to put a little bit out there and let them, like I said, reach their own conclusions and not pressure them, because the more we pressure them, the more they get turned off. So, Rob.
I was going to say, in my vegan advocacy work, I find there are so many people who are open and ready to make that change.
Absolutely.
And there may be these, what they see as these roadblocks or challenges that they need to overcome. But one thing that I've seen time and time again is what we may perceive as challenging behavior is actually people who are trying to work these things out in themselves.
Exactly.
And it took me a while to understand that and not feel personally, and not to take it personally, where I might get someone to say, well, what about protein? What about this? Or, you know, what about, and this questioning. And I had to stop and think, you know what? I would much rather have that than someone saying, you know, I'm not interested. Because they're really often, unless, I mean, you could tell the type who are just trying to be argumentative for argument's sake. But so often, they're working it out. Mm-hmm. They want someone to help them. They're really trying to find a way, and it comes across as challenging. Yeah. But not necessarily so.
Absolutely. And I tend to think of vegans as celebrities, because you know how celebrities, if they walk on the street, everybody wants their autograph. And then for them, it might be the 1000th time somebody asks them an autograph. They're like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
But for the person who asks, it's the first time.
Yeah.
For the person who asks, it's the first time.
I
So
give them my autograph all the
You can do that too. You know, I told you, the Rob Curtis Vegan Appreciation Society. So, but anyway, let's think about this thing, because when we are talking to people, for us, it might be the 1,000th time somebody says, where do you get your protein? But for them, it's the first time, very likely. So we have to think about that and not saying, oh, God, I never want, but just say, okay, sure, ask me. You know, and I'll respond to your questions. So very good point. Thank you. Dennis.
Okay. Sometimes I've found, after going through decades, all the way through being tortured, denigrated, looked at with all kinds of stuff, what do you do in situations where you have family and often friends who don't invite you? Why? Because you might say something. You have to be very diplomatic and careful in the way you approach people who are not ready, not willing, not able, or for some reason are just convinced that they don't want to be vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to be diplomatic and polite.
Absolutely.
That's the best.
Yeah, and this is when you really want to own your inner peace, your inner truth, and just, as Carol Adams would say, be the vegan in the room. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Just being vegan in the room, that's it. Starts questions automatically, and looks and ridicule and you name it. But really it's about, this is when you really want to center yourself really strong and on your truth and be at peace as much as you can inside, because we all face that. We all face those barriers.
When they say you're not welcome because they're afraid that you're going to say something just because they have a piece of meat that's centered from
It's their problem, not yours.
whatever it is, even if it might be a great family function
Mm-hmm.
where they're having a barbecue outside and afraid you're going to say something about you.
Right.
You know, sometimes
Yeah.
people just don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when it's a very important occasion?
I don't do anything. I just don't. I don't want to deal with people like that. It's not that I don't want to be out there and educating them, but they obviously are close-minded. And if they have a problem with you, I have a problem with them. I don't want to be around people who think I'm a problem, when I think they're the problem, actually. But and they are, you know, it's a matter of choosing between convenience and ethics. I'd rather lose friends than losing my ethics. I don't know. Anyway.
There is a passage in the Christian New Testament that reads, "Perfect love drives out fear." And that there are many philosophical systems that observe a dichotomy between fear and love. And if someone is, acts under love, then you probably have a good relationship with you. If someone is controlled by their fear in relationship to you, then they really don't have a dynamic love for you. And one of the wonderful memes on the internet is of the guy settling, and he's letting himself be treated like a doormat. And a lot of times we can be so scared of not being loved that we allow people who claim to love us treat us unlovingly. And there's a very dark irony at play there. In Yiddish, there's a wonderful term, mishpocha, which means a relative by love, as opposed to a relative by blood. And if someone doesn't want to love me, if someone doesn't want to be respectful, if someone doesn't want to cherish me, that's their right. But they don't really love me at that point. And so someone might have, I might share a gene pool with someone. Number one, I have to pity them. Bad gene pool. But number two, it doesn't mean they love me. It doesn't mean they're my true family. It just means that we look the same. And so if someone doesn't love me, if they're blinded by their fears, all they see are the scary potentialities, it's painful, but they already don't love me. And all that's left is, will that ugly truth come to the surface or remain hidden?
I mean, my answer to this personally is that vegans are my family. Everybody else is just somebody with a potential to be educated. That's it. I stopped relating to or going to social gatherings with non-vegans years ago because just looking at them eating dismembered body parts was just too painful. And, you know, they do what they want to do. And I'm not here to, you know, judge them or question what they do. But as far as my own well-being, I had to disassociate from people who were doing this in front of me because, first of all, they were not open to listen to me at all. And really, it's true. My family is vegans. You guys are my family. I love you. Rob.
I'm glad you brought up that point about being the vegan in the room. I was going to say that, and I have a T-shirt I should have wanted to give that says, "Vegan, no apologies." And being an unapologetic about whatever, being vegan, being gay, being whatever, even if you're not actively promoting that, if people know that and you're there and you're not taking that apologetic posture, that is threatening to people. And but that does not mean that you have to be at that moment militant about it, strident about it, but unapologetic. And
Exactly.
that threatens a lot of
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly how I think. I am never apologetic whatsoever. Wherever I go, I try to have a vegan T-shirt every day if I can, wherever I go, because you never know who's going to be out there and who's going to want to ask, what does that mean, you know? But whenever I talk to people, like I said, I own my truth. My truth is me. This is my beliefs, and therefore I'm not going to deviate from them. And I want to believe that people are intelligent enough to actually understand the message. I mean, if I could understand it, why can't have it do as well? And we tend to take this position, the animal movement, that, you know, people are too stupid to understand, and we patronize them, and we say to them, "Now just go vegetarian." When actually, well, wait a minute, we were able to understand the concept of veganism. We may have got to it by progression, but we got to it eventually, and are we smarter than anybody else? I don't think so. So if we can't understand what veganism is, why do we expect others not to? So never being apologetic, it's a very good point. I will never be apologetic. And like I said, I own my truth, and I stand by my truth no matter what. What people do with what I tell them is their problem, not mine. Thank you, Rob. Anybody? That's it? No more? Jimmy.
So one of the things I hear quite often is, I want to go vegan, that either A, I'm scared this might happen, or B, I did go vegan in the past, and this negative thing happened. And one of the things I found profoundly empowering on my vegan journey was that I have an absurd body with a bunch of anomalous needs. And it wasn't until I found people to explain to me how to meet those needs in the vegan diet that I was able to thrive on a vegan diet. So for me, it was never a question of stinking thinking or a non-resourceful belief system. It was just figuring out how. And one of the things, there's a very silly man down under who is popular for saying is, you're not addicted to food, you're just under-calorie. And if you get enough wholesome calories, the appearance of addiction will go away, because there's a huge difference neurologically between being addicted to an opiate or being addicted to a narcotic, being addicted to alcohol, and really having a yen for cheese. It's neurologically completely different. And it's really unfair to people who've been through NA or AA to equate their epic struggle and their epic victory with someone who would like a piece of cheddar. Huge difference.
Actually,
Especially, it is physically, but you know, you can win yourself out of it in about a month.
You can, yeah.
And it's a matter of being willing to do it. The
The
casein and casomorphins.
Yeah,
Yes.
casomorphine is an actual substance that it does.
Yeah.
So before if I may continue, so what's been done in field trials over and over and over again, with people saying they were addicted to cheese, is if they were given enough wholesome calories from whole food sources, and even bump it, maybe 2,500, maybe 3,000, maybe 3,500, you know, for 30 days, you know, and this start with day one, here's your 3,000 calories, day two, 3,000 calories. And by the way, no cheese. They might miss the cheese, but they didn't have withdrawal symptoms. And
Oh, that's true.
within a week, there were no withdrawal symptoms. The body craves fat when it doesn't get enough calories from carbohydrates. If it has enough calories, it's styling.
And not to get too large on the nutrition aspect, but it's a very good point. And that's one of the reasons I became a coach, because early on when I was active out there and talking to people, usually the questions we get are nutritional. And I wasn't equipped to answer those questions. And I wasn't even sure we were herbivores or omnivores or whatever. So I had to educate myself to be able to address those questions and answer those questions, you know, with knowledge and be able to give the right answers to people. Because they are constantly bombarded by nutritional myths. I mean, the latest fad is the paleo thing. Everybody I talked to lately seems to be on the paleo diet. And it's going to die off eventually, just like Atkins died off. But right now, it's just, you know, more or less died off. I mean, now you got the vegan Atkins, apparently. But those are just those nutritional myths that people are bombarded with constantly through media, through you name it. And you go to the movies, you see people eating. And wherever people turn to, there are those myths constantly reinforcing to us. So there's a lot of myth around nutrition. And that was really what struck me when I first started being active, is that usually the questions we get are nutritional. Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your calcium? You know, we all heard those. They don't think about the animals. They tend to think about the food first, because that's what scares them. It doesn't scare them to care for animals. It scares them to say, oh my God, am I going to die on a vegan diet?